because today we're now coming to the absolute moment that we've all been waiting for 4 weeks. Is Jessica Craven coming to visit the CT Town Hall? Now, this is not the first time that Jessica has visited us. It is, I believe, the third. One time at a virtual, actually at a virtual, and one time in person. So thank you, Jessica, for your time. For those of you that don't know Jessica, she is an awesome political content creator. She is the author of a daily newsletter called Chop Wood, Carry Water. And what she does is really unique because she not only has a grasp of the moment and the times, but she also shows us what we can do every single day to make a difference. And she's a co host of the Practivist podcast. Her aim and her desire is to help us all become more engaged in the political process. And I know for me personally, and for Molly, and many of all of our leaders, we depend on her every day to help us become more active and more productive in our work. So subscribe to our Substack. The link is in the chat. Subscribe to our Substack because we want to make sure she continues to do her good work. And with that, I'm turning it over to Jessica. And I'm going to stop sharing.
Hey everybody, how are ya? Good to see everyone. Hold on, I just want to look. I'm looking at all the wonderful faces that are here. It's so nice to see all of you. I suspect that I have been on many events with you in the past, lots of you. And if I haven't met you before, very nice to meet you. And my name is Jessica Craven, and I am, yes, the author of Chop Wood, Carry Water, a daily actions newsletter, and a political content creator, and the co-host of Practivist Pod, which I do with my good friend Steve Pearson, who's another activist, and yeah, and a bunch of other things. And originally, really, what I am is an activist. So my main priority is helping to get people on the left elected and to try to make our political system better. And I will just start out by, acknowledging the obvious and the immediate, which is that, yeah, we are in a tremendously difficult moment, unbelievably difficult. And it is a very, it is a wild thing because some of us have been at this work for years and years and years, and some for lifetimes. And we were talking before the meeting started about how in some ways it feels very much like all the work that many people have been doing for their entire adult lives is all getting rolled back right now. It feels very discouraging. So I want to, and I'm seeing nodding heads, I definitely want to acknowledge that. This is, it's not my job to come onto a town hall and tell everybody like everything's great and you're crazy to think things are bad, because obviously that would be crazy. So things are grim. For those of you who don't know, I live in Los Angeles, and so we have been in the middle of this first wave of ice attacks. And the funny thing is that the news kind of fixated on it for a second, but it's utterly ongoing. It's so, and there are still, like, I was down at the detention center protesting just a couple days ago. There are people there protesting every day. Not huge numbers. It would really be good if there were more, but there's people out there. There are people spontaneously popping up protesting everywhere there are ice raids. There's a tremendous amount of mutual aid being done. We're, raising money so that street vendors can stay home to the best of our ability, but there's a enormous need, and not every street vendor even knows how or where to reach out to get that help. And the city is changed. Everybody who lives here can name a street vendor that we've been going to for years, if not decades, who's vanished, whether because they've been deported or they're hiding. It is it's a really deeply troubling time. It is very emotional. I've attended a number of, there have been these sort of interfaith prayer vigils that a wonderful group called LA Voice has been putting on. My husband and I've gone to probably 3 or 4 of them at this point. And sometimes you find yourself, when you kind of get quiet and listen to these really beautiful speakers, there's always a moment where they invite you to turn to someone you don't know and ask them, something sort of personal, like what are you holding on to as hope right now, or what is your vision, or what do you need hope for right now? And every time my husband and I have done it, we have ended up in tears. um it is just the minute you kind of stop and take a moment, it's very overwhelming and it's very emotional. But what I know is this, which is that to not have an emotional reaction in this moment would be deeply abnormal. What is coming from the Trump administration is a result of an eradication of empathy or compassion. They have found a way to sort of get rid of that completely in themselves, and they're working very hard to get their followers to just not have that anymore. And I never want to be like that. So as much as this is we are suffering and we are sorrowing and we are grieving, all of us are in various stages of anger, grief, fear, but at least we can feel those things. The result of pushing all of your feelings down and all of your humanity down is that you become like the other side. And thank God we're not there, you know? Um, so as much as I do not wish this grief upon any of us, I don't wish the suffering upon anybody. I wouldn't even wish it on people on the other side. Um, I don't wish any of this moment on us, but I am grateful that in this moment we can experience it for what it is, which is a moment of great horror and peril, and not pretend that this is normal or this is fine, or do what some Americans are doing, which is just try to bury their head in the sand and go on. So, all of that is to say, thank you for being here. There are lots of different ways of dealing with a moment like this. I do know very, on paper, very nice people I'm friends with or, know from my neighborhood who have just said, well, I'm just going to stop watching the news for the next 4 years until this is over. I know a lot of people who have done that. And that is not a choice I'm going to make because I feel that that is abdicating responsibility in a moment where our privilege enables us to stand up. But I certainly can't change those people if that's the choice they make. But you all have made a different choice. And I really want to acknowledge it because standing up in this moment is really hard. It is scary. It is exhausting. We are not seeing the fruits of our labor almost at all. In many ways, it feels like we're moving backwards. And yet, I am convinced that our fight matters and that we will get through this. And when we do, it will be because of people like you. It will be because of the people who put their heads down. I always imagine it a little bit like being an animal in a snowstorm. I think someone was talking about a long time ago in some piece of reading that I shared about buffaloes and how when they're in a blizzard, they turn and they walk right into the storm. I cannot remember the reason, but that enables them somehow to get through the storm better. And that's what you are doing. You have decided, I am not going to hide. I am not going to pretend this isn't happening. I'm not going to, at least for today, flee to another country, although I know people who are doing that too, and that's an option. I don't have a judgment about it, but you are staying and you are fighting. And it is the ultimate courage and the ultimate patriotism to stand up and fight when it seems utterly hopeless and like we're utterly outnumbered and outspent and like we're just not making any progress at all. So thank you for that. And the truth of the matter is that in my life, what I have seen over and over again is that change, transformation, victory, progress, these things come when people work in the face of insurmountable odds, right? You look at the people who worked to abolish slavery, or the people who worked in the civil rights movement, or the people who worked for the vote for women or for farm workers' rights. These are people who slogged on when it was absolutely hopeless. Talk about bad Supreme Court decisions. Think about how Black Americans felt after Dred Scott, right? Think about that. And I'm sure, felt enormous despair. And maybe some of them did give up, and maybe some of them did just go, I can't do this fight anymore, but some kept fighting. And they fought until the next, round of people could grab the baton from them and carry on that fight. And as Robert Hubble, my good friend, says often, like what we're doing right now is carrying that baton. Some of us are going to get to see the fruits of that, some of us may not, but we know that there is a relay right now and that it is our job to do this leg of the relay. And if we do that, the relay will continue. So while I do see it as being brutally difficult right now, I also still have hope in the face of all of this that our continued efforts are going to make a change even when we don't think that they will. Because we've seen too many movements in the past that have continued through impossibility and have ultimately succeeded because they did not stop, because they persevered, because they didn't look for quick wins. You know, everybody likes a quick win, but they understood that sometimes a movement means a slow movement. And right now, we happen to have hit up against the culmination of 50 years of effort, right? I mean, you could argue it's even a little longer than 50. It's basically my entire lifetime, right? I was born in 1968 when Lyndon Johnson was president, right during the, heat of the Vietnam War. Right after Lyndon Johnson comes Nixon, and we start having all of the sort of, weaponizing racism, weaponizing abortion. It all starts there. We have a couple of blips of wonderful presidents, but we've got Reagan, who decides, that he's going to explode income inequality and start cutting taxes for rich people and attack our higher education system. And so it goes. And then we've got a 50-year plan to buy the Supreme Court for white nationalists. And all of these things are coming to fruition at this moment, along with the climate crisis. And it's a lot. On the other hand, somebody had to be here for this moment, and it's us. And what I like to remind people is that every single one of us is a miracle. Just our existence, just the fact that we have been the result of generation after generation after generation of people who have survived, right? It's only the survivors who get to pass down the genes. We are the results of survivors. Our ancestors, whether we know who they are or not, were survivors. They stuck it out, they persevered, they made it long enough to generate the next generation. And here we are, every single one of us, completely unlikely that any single one of us is here. And here we are. And this moment is incredibly hard. But someone needs to rise to the occasion. And today it is us. And what does that look like? What does rising to the occasion look like? It doesn't mean any single one of us being the hero who saves the day. It means every single one of us picking up our little part of this and carrying it for the day that we're in, right? It is really, I think of ants, who all come together and carry things that are way more than their weight. Like this is way more weight than any single one of us can carry. And that's why the effort to sort of look for a single savior has really failed. Because ultimately, in this moment, no one person can save us. It must be a collective action. But when it is a collective action, we can carry this weight. We can carry it. It might be slow, it might be a long walk, it might be a slog, it will be tiring, but we can do it. And so, for those of you who don't know the origin story of my newsletter, Chop Wood, Carry Water, this is basically a name that has nothing to do with activism. The name is a terrible name for a political newsletter. Um, I learned that phrase, chop wood, carry water, from my dad when I was going through a divorce. And I think he knew the phrase from a book about Buddhism that he had read, but he wasn't a Buddhism. I mean, wasn't a Buddhist as far as I knew. I'm not a Buddhist. But he taught me the phrase because I was at the time of this divorce, I was 35 and I was really going through it. I was really sad and hopeless. And what was happening in my life was not something that could be quickly fixed. And my dad told me, you might really feel this terrible for like a year or even two, because he had been through divorces. And I said, how do you get through a period of protracted suffering when you feel so hopeless? And he said, you chop wood and you carry water. You just do the thing in front of you to do. Stop expecting to be happy. Stop expecting to feel good. Do the thing to get you through the day. Do your work, make your bed, take your walk. You'll go to bed. And someday, if you do that enough days in a row, you're going to wake up and this will be past you. And that is why when Trump was elected the first time, I named the newsletter Chop Wood, Carry Water. In the beginning, it wasn't even a newsletter. It was just an email to a couple of family members. But because I knew I needed to do something if I was going to stay sane, and I literally couldn't see how this would end. So I figured, okay, I'm going to stay in the day. I'm going to do the actions. And that's now been going on for many, many years, right? A decade, close to a decade. I don't even know where we are. And it's turned into something that's been very helpful, not just for me, but for my subscribers. There's 150,000 people subscribing to this newsletter now, and we all do the same thing: is that we take the action and we let go of how it's all going to work out in the end. But what we have found is when we take the actions, we have all kinds of spectacular results. Do we also have massive setbacks? Yes, we do. That is life, and that is also the situation that we find ourselves in, which again has been germinating for 50 years. So, but we do win elections. We do make enormous progress, and then the progress gets pulled back, but then we keep going and we make more progress. And right now we are in a massive reversal. And it's terrible because we saw so much progress under President Biden and we thought, oh, good, now we're moving forward with climate action and we're moving forward with, all these wonderful things. And now it feels like so many of those things are being dragged backwards. But our job, because we are the buffaloes, we are the bison. I'm mixing my metaphors a little bit, if you'll forgive me, as I like to do, is we are just marching forward. And some days that's going to be an easy task. And some days, like right now, it's never been harder. But our job is to keep taking the steps forward. So, yes, that means we are going to work to win elections. It means we are going to keep calling our representatives. It means we are going to keep showing up at protests. It means we are going to keep boycotting and using our dollar. We're going to keep writing letters to the editor. We're going to keep doing everything we can, thinking of new buying, paying for billboards, do whatever we can to get through this moment. And the other thing I think we need to trust, and someone should tell me when we're getting close to where I should be quiet, probably soon. The other thing that I really want us to trust is that fascism, this kind of authoritarianism, especially when you have someone as egotistical as Trump in the middle of it, and all of these extremely sort of self-serving individuals orbiting him, like ultimately sows a lot of the seeds of its own destruction, because ultimately these are not people who can actually do the jobs that they're in. And we're already starting to see it. We're seeing the weather systems failing us and people dying. We're seeing, airplanes not flying the way they should. We're seeing all of these little system breakdowns, and we're only going to see more. We're seeing the Epstein thing starting to be a real problem for Trump because he's fanned these flames and now they're coming to consume him. Now, will they consume him? Who knows? Right? Who knows how Trump's political career ends? Who knows? And again, I try not to worry about it because I'm in the day that I am in, and that's where I try to stay. But I do know that they are burning very brightly right now and doing a tremendous amount of damage. But I also know that they will burn themselves out. Does that mean we do nothing? No. It means we keep envisioning a better future. It means we keep making our phone calls, working to win elections. And I am not a proponent of the idea that, oh, we're not going to have elections in 2026. Really, if we weren't going to have elections in 2026, I would love to know why Greg Abbott is in the middle of a desperate attempt to gerrymander Texas so that they don't lose as many seats in the midterms. We're going to have midterms and we're going to win them. I'm going to tell you both of those things. Because we're going to make that happen, not because, magic and fairy dust. So, yeah, it's a really difficult moment. And every life being ruined here in Los Angeles right now and by ice across the country is a life that's irretrievable. So, like, I'm not going to blow smoke. Lives are being ruined. People are dying. Millions of people will die because of USAID being defunded. It's real and it's vicious, and we will deal with the trauma of this moment for the rest of our lives. But I'll close by saying this: something good must come of it. Something good must come of it. Our systems are essentially broken. They have been broken. It's a reason that so many Americans are so upset. Americans are miserable. They are living in huge income inequality. No one can count on health care. No one can afford their rent or their mortgage. Nobody knows whether Social Security will be there for them. Medicare, Medicaid. Yes, many people voted to make it worse. But ultimately, people are hungry for an answer. And so it is our job. No one wants this job. I don't want it. I'd like to be sitting on the couch watching Netflix all day. But like, this is the job we've been given, is to envision a better future and fight for it. And I'll tell you something, that when Americans see somebody who's genuinely fighting for that, they get excited about it. And you see this, I don't want to get into, if people don't like Zohran Mamdani, whatever, but like, you see that happening in New York City right now. Young people turning out, people who never vote turning out because they're excited, because he is speaking to real human needs and how those problems can be solved. And if we can just hold on, we have really amazing candidates coming down the pipeline. We have really amazing people who are going to run in 2026, who are going to run in 2028, who are running in Virginia this November and in November, in New Jersey this November. So, yes, it's hard. And a day at a time, we can get through this. And we are honored with the obligation to envision a better future for our countrymen and women and people. And at the end of the day, when we are finished with our lives, if we have the opportunity to look back at what we have done, we will know that we fought our asses off for the best things in the world you can fight for. That we fought for democracy, that we fought for equality, that we fought for actual freedom, real freedom, that we fought to save lives. We fought for love. We fought for empathy. We fought for compassion. There's nothing better, no better way to spend this almost impossible life that each of us has been given. So, yes, this is hard. It is tough. And yet, as I say at the end of my newsletter often, I guarantee you that we are tougher. Together, linking arms, we can get through this. Some of us will falter on individual days. The rest of us will carry you on that day, and together we will get through and we will see a better day. One day at a time. Chop wood, carry water. It's not just a saying, it is a way of life, and it is a way to survive the incredibly brutal moment that we are in. And always look for someone to help. And when we put our work on a service plane, we remember that someone out there is suffering and we may be able to help them. We can get through this because love will be guiding us and no longer fear. And with that, I close.
Thank you so much, Jessica. We have some questions. Laurie is wondering, why is Trump getting away with claiming everything's an emergency when clearly there are no emergencies?
I mean, you can ask, why is Trump getting away with fill in 1,000 blanks at this point? Why is he getting away with ICE agents that are masked and not identifying themselves and don't have signed judicial warrants? Why is he getting away with declaring emergencies? Why is he getting away with on and on and on? I was interviewing Representative Garcia earlier today, who is taking on he's the ranking member of the Oversight Committee. And he was talking about the things that Democrats have planned when we get the majority back. The investigations, the subpoena power that they have, the ways that we have to start rebuilding the rule of law. Why? Because Trump has found every single loophole in the system. And sometimes they're not even loopholes. Sometimes they're just things that can be exploited because people expect other people to behave in a certain decent way, and he's not. He's not the first person to do it. If anybody has read, and sorry, I'm going to digress on this for just a second, but if anyone has read The Power Broker by Robert Caro, which I just finished, which is about Robert Moses, who basically was in control of New York City for all intents and purposes for anything that got built in the city for 50 years. He used the same tactics. He amassed power in places where you would never even think to look for power. He used, sort of corruption to grease the wheels. He kept folders on everybody who he wanted to influence so that if they threatened to subvert him, he would, use information against them. He began doing things before he had gotten permission. He delayed in the courts. He did everything Trump is doing. In fact, I'm convinced that somebody who helped Trump become who he is knew Robert Moses. It's all the same stuff. But the point is, there are people who are brilliant at amassing power and then finding out how to exploit that power in ways that most people would never think to do, because most people are decent. And so what you do is, after that person is finally out of power, and every person will be, right? We're all mortal. Then you go, okay, how do we shore that up so that never happens again? Obviously, there is a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do to get our system back to where we can trust each other and trust the system again. But right now, Trump has got it by the you know what, and there's very little that can be done until Congress and Republicans are actually willing to hold him accountable. And because we know they're likely not, it is going to require flipping the House. So we're going to have to be patient, and we're going to have to tolerate a huge amount of abuse. And can we slow some of it with phone calls and making a lot of noise and threatening to boycott? Yeah, some of it. But some of it we cannot until we get that House back. And this is why we say elections matter. And you all know that. But this is something that we can gently point out to people who maybe didn't vote. or who just like, I don't know, I voted for the president, but then I left the rest of the ticket blank. This is a continuing education process that we must endeavor upon with the rest of our country. This is why elections matter. This is why electing people in the House who are responsible matter, because once someone gets ultimate power like this, it's really difficult to wrest it away from them. So we're learning a really painful lesson right now. And again, I'm not going to pretend, oh, well, we can just snap our fingers and take this all away from him. It could be very, very difficult to get it away. But eventually we will. And when we do, we will build structures where this cannot happen again. But that's going to take time.
Thank you very much. The lower court seemed to be saying he can't do things, but the actions don't stop. And is there anything that we can do about the emergency requests that result in the nighttime decisions without an explanation?
Well, I mean, we have a utterly bought and paid for corrupt Supreme Court right now. And I think if anything, this time period, I mean, some of us have been working on Supreme Court reform for a decade. And, you know, there are people like Senator Merkley who clearly have understood for a long time now, like the court must be expanded. We must have ethics reform in the court. We must have term limits. But there's been, you know, Americans have been slow to grasp the seriousness of the problem. And again, the hope is that perhaps now people will be able to see, like, oh, yeah, it's broken. The Supreme Court is gone. It's fully been corrupted and must be reformed, must be dramatically expanded, must be, you know. So again, these are things that we are going to have to work on when we regain power. And it is stuff that, you know, theoretically could have happened when we had majorities in both the Senate and the House with Biden, but there was still institutional resistance to it. So unfortunately, Trump is burning a lot of things down. And the one thing I keep holding on to is that maybe out of all of this jaw dropping damage comes a real willingness to finally change on an institutional level so that this cannot happen again. I
Thank
hope
you
that's
very
not
much.
too dissatisfying of an answer.
Yeah, no, thank you. You're doing great. Jennifer is asking, how do we talk to people who are distressed but not willing to be active? And she's wondering how bad is it going to have to get through to people?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, you know, a lot of people are inactive because they're terrified. My experience in general, and one of the reasons I started the newsletter, is because I find that people will often do something if you spoon feed it to them. So here's a call to make to your representative. I'm going to text you the phone number and a script. I used to have time to do a thing where I had a whole spreadsheet with people I knew in California who lived in different districts and their representatives' phone numbers. And I would spend an hour or an hour and a half, usually on the treadmill at the gym, when a bill was up in California in the legislature here, texting people in different districts with a script and their representative's phone number and saying, just make the call. And I had a huge, I don't know, it was like 70%, 80% of people would make the call because I texted them a script and their specific representative's phone number. So it's so easy. So I learned from that that if you bundle actions very simply, if you're going to a protest, if you invite a friend to come along and say, you don't even have to bring a sign, I'll bring an extra sign, or just come and walk with me, and afterwards we can get a cup of tea. I have so many friends who have never been to a protest, and we've succeeded in inviting, you know, my husband and I invite them, and sometimes they come. They have a really good time, and they say, oh, wow, it's actually really fun, and it's just a kind of a party, and this is great. Um, but they would never have gone on their own. So a lot of it is just reaching out, talking to people, telling them how much better they will feel if they take action, even the tiniest action. And I'm a big believer too, and inviting people into a group. You know, everybody's better off. We've got Commit to Democracy here, which is an incredible group to join. There are so many others. People can join an indivisible group basically wherever they live if they want to join with other people in person. And boy, does that make a huge difference in just making you feel like you're not alone. You have a community, so it becomes a community gathering as well as an activism thing. And you've got people to commiserate on the bad days. You can commiserate with them. On the good days, you celebrate with them. So those things I think are really important.
Thank you. Natalie's wondering, is there any collective effort to have civil rights attorneys on standby to help those who get arrested?
I think there are definitely collective efforts here. There are organizations that are helping to pay for legal funds for undocumented people. Um, as far as other people who get arrested, I mean, there haven't been all that many people who are not, you know, immigrants of some kind. They're very much going after brown people right now. Um, but I know for a fact that there are amazing legal groups who are ready with whatever comes up. Yes, I can't name the group for you, but I am certain that there are legal groups that are ready for just such a challenge. In fact, I'm on a call once a week with a whole group of lawyers. In fact, I don't even know why I'm on this call. I got invited on and now I just go, and they talk about basically it's lawyers and nonprofits. You know, groups are preparing in advance. They're not just, as Robert Hubble says, you know, we're not just potted plants. They are getting ready. They are, you know, preparing. They are writing their briefs. They are getting stuff ready so that when the next attack comes, they're prepared for it. And it's been a pretty successful tactic. Yeah, we've had a lot of failures, but remember, we've had a lot of wins too. When that birthright citizenship decision came from the Supreme Court, oh, no more injunctions, they were ready for that. The next day, they launched a class action lawsuit because they knew that that was likely going to be the ruling, and they had it all ready to go. And that's why we had another success almost immediately after, because those groups were ready. They were prepared. We have very smart people on our side.
Thank you very much. Robin is asking, we write postcards, we call our elected officials, we protest and donate, but is there anything else that we can do that would be more effective, even more effective?
Yeah, I think those things are all great. I think that registering voters is important. I think that working on these elections coming up is really important. Um, Making sure that we win, not only win, but win by like ridiculous margins so that Republicans really start to go like, we are getting our asses kicked in every election now. It's getting worse and worse and worse so that maybe they don't pass the next horrible bill or the next reconciliation bill. So elections are really important. Voter registration is important, and just talking to people, helping you. I was on a workshop recently that was about passive news recipients. Did you know that 50% of American adults are passive news recipients, meaning they never go and look for news? They don't. So if news comes to them in their feed, that's great, but they don't trust the news. They won't watch it. They don't trust almost anybody but their friends. And that's who they're getting their news from. So talk to people. You know, I always tell the story of being in physical therapy like 6 months ago, and my physical therapist telling me, it was right after the election, telling me that he hadn't voted in the election. And I didn't jump down his throat. I talked to him some more. And after a long bit of conversation, found out that he had no idea what was happening in the country, had no idea books were being banned, abortion, didn't know about any of it. He was a classic passive news guy, mostly listened to like workout, you know, videos. And as I explained to him what was happening and how the federal legislature works, state legislatures work. At the end of it, he said, do you know that you're the first person in my life who has ever explained that to me? I really didn't know. I didn't know any of that stuff. Thank you for telling me. So remember, our civics education sucks. Our education in general is under attack and not doing great. So a lot of people don't know, and they may not believe anybody but you. So, yes, there are Trump voters. I don't try to convince Trump voters. We're talking about this large swath of people, the 90 million people who didn't vote in the presidential elections, who are just checked out. And when we can start to draw the connections, like, oh, the people who say, oh, I don't really do politics. Oh, yeah? Well, are you interested in having access to Medicare? Are you on Medicare? Are you on Social Security? You know, I have a friend who doesn't do politics, but she just almost lost her SDI. Yeah, that's politics right there. I have another friend who barely does politics. Her daughter just lost her student loan. She was about to go to a really prestigious, expensive nursing program. Now she's not sure she can go. That's politics. And so on and so on. Um, my other friend just went to Iowa, and while she was there, a major tornado came. She was in the basement with a bunch of people she didn't know, and they said, yeah, this never used to happen in the summer, but it's happening much more far into the year now, and there's so many more. That's politics. All of that. So we get to draw those lines. And again, this is a slow process. We are not going to fix this tomorrow. So it's going to take time to educate people about what's happening and how we got here. But I would keep drawing the lines, if you can, between the billionaire class that wants to keep us divided so they can keep profiting off of us, the increasing income inequality, which is just going to get a lot worse because of Trump's bill, and the fact that when we stop fighting each other and stop being divided by culture war stuff, we can actually fight the oligarchy together and start to create an economy that works for us and our families. That is a message that cuts right across parties. So it's our job to communicate, to be that message.
And Charlie, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Cindy's asking, can you comment on how you think we can win in the midterms? And do you have confidence that the DNC has a plan to get more voters on board with their vision?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in touch with the DNC to a certain extent. I'm on their, a bunch of social media content creators are on some signal chats with them so that we share, content and ideas. I think Ken Martin is a huge step up from who we had before as chair. I was a huge Ben Wickler fan. It was very disappointing to me that he did not get that job. But Ken Martin seems to be a pretty good organizer. And in general, they've done town halls in all 50 states now. They are giving a lot more money to even red states. They're working hard to sort of be competitive in more districts. I think they're doing a decent job. But again, I have stopped expecting the DNC to save us in this moment. Again, these giant institutions, they're not great because what we need right now is to be nimble and we need to be massive. And so I'm looking more to the people's organizations, Swing Left, Indivisible, Move On, whatever, these groups that know how to organize mass movements. We are going to save us, and we know how to win elections. We've been doing it. And I do like to remind people that even though we did lose the presidential election, other than that, we've won basically every election we've run in over the last 8 years. We've lost a few, but percentage-wise, the vast majority we have won. And since Trump was elected the second time, we're winning even more. So we know how to win. The odds are overwhelmingly in our favor just from historical standpoint, setting aside the fact that Trump is basically burning our government down and our economy sucks. And people overwhelmingly now hate what he's doing even on immigration. So his top two issues, immigration and economy, he is deeply underwater now. So, the wind is at our backs. We know how to turn out voters. We know how to register voters. We know how to give money to great organizations that are doing this work. We're going to have a great crop of candidates. I met yesterday with a guy who is running in the primaries in CA22, Randy Villegas. He's hoping to run against Valadeo. He's a thrilling candidate. I really hope he becomes our candidate, but there's exciting young people running. So I think we've got a shot at a historic wave election. And you all know how to do this. If you don't, sign up with Commit to Democracy. They do phone banks every week. Sign up with Indivisible. They'll be doing a ton of relational organizing, phone banking, all of that. And we can do this. We know how to do this. We are veteran soldiers when it comes to winning elections. So we just need to keep doing what we've been doing.
Thank you. Allison is asking, what do you think is one of the unifying issues that most Americans, regardless of party, can find common ground on? And she mentions Mondami's win, and wondering about focusing on our kitchen table issues such as rent and healthcare.
I think that's a great question. One of my favorite questions I've ever been asked. Thank you for asking that. Billionaire tax, because I go to a lot of polling meetings and a lot of messaging meetings. And the funny thing is that Americans actually agree on quite a bit of stuff. And one of the things they agree on by I don't know if it's 85% of Americans want billionaires to pay more money. Another thing that most Americans across parties, including MAGA, want is to support and expand Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, right? People want access to more affordable health care by wide margins. Common sense gun laws, as much as Republicans want us to believe otherwise, expanded background checks is supported by like 80% of Americans, including a large proportion of gun owners. Reproductive freedom, wildly popular across a great swath of the country. But yeah, you could start with billionaires tax, which, by the way, Massachusetts has done with enormous success. Not only have billionaires not fled, there are more, sorry, millionaires. There are more millionaires there now than there were when they passed the tax. And they're using the money to pay for things like universal pre-K and food for children at school. It's been incredibly successful. So Mamdani is tapping into this. The billionaires tax, millionaires tax, very successful, very popular message, and he's running on housing. People are fed up with housing in this country. It's unaffordable. People are freaking out about it. And so he said this is something we are going to prioritize, is freezing rents. Such a simple thing. And also universal childcare, another long overdue service program that the government can provide and does provide in most countries. These are things most Americans support. And so, yeah, when you run on those issues, people get excited, but you got to run on them organically. The thing about Mamdani that's so magical is that he's real, he's authentic. People don't like institutional machine politicians anymore, and I don't blame them. I don't like them either. I'm tired of them. They have not delivered. And so when they meet someone like Mamdani, I know people have, there are things about him that certain, that there are issues that people worry about, but overall, he's struck a chord. People love him. He seems like a genuinely nice guy, and he genuinely cares. He's not saying he cares to get votes. He genuinely cares. And he's got ideas that are about kitchen table issues. And it's striking a chord. It's thrilling to see the turnout and the enthusiasm there. So when we get great candidates, that's why I always recommend Run for Something, this fantastic organization that is going out and recruiting young, exciting, diverse people to run for office. Because if we want young people to run for office, we can't keep running old people. We have got to run people young people get excited about. And those people exist. They're everywhere. So another great place to put your money, Run for Something. But yes, great question. Americans agree on more than we disagree on. It's just that Republicans are spectacularly good at dividing us over culture war issues. They're very, very, very good at it. And because of that, we think we disagree on much more than we actually do. So,
Thank you. You're very inspiring. And do you have a closing message for us?
I mean, yeah, my closing message is just, as I said, incredibly difficult time. It is a time that everything is burning, right? And that is a moment that is terrifying in many, many ways. It is a moment when things are decaying, they're burning, they're falling apart. And the only thing I keep hanging on to is that once something like that happens, that out of ashes themselves, out of the decomposed matter itself, out of the broken objects, we can actually grow something new. We can grow something that is entirely different, that is actually, in a weird way, fertilized by the destruction that has come before. Does that mean I want the destruction? No, none of us do. None of us want this. But there are two options. This destruction happens, and then we live in a destroyed country. And the greed gets worse, and the destruction continues until there's nothing left but a shell of a country. Or this destruction goes on as long as it can. As soon as we can, we wrench the power back. We take the new power that we get, and we go in an entirely new direction. We start actually listening to what Americans want, to what has fueled them to bring us to this incredibly destructive moment, and we start building new systems. The politicians are out there who have this vision. Mamdani is one. Pete Buttigieg is another. AOC is another. Danica Rome is another. There's lots of them all across the country. And the people are there, the policy wonks, the people at Cap Action, the people who are writing new policy, who are imagining what it looks like to actually do universal child care, to actually do Medicare for all. Those people are out there. That policy is written. It is ready. What has been lacking is the political will. What if the political will finally gets generated by a moment of catastrophe? What if it is like when an alcoholic hits bottom and their life is destroyed, but suddenly they admit they have a problem, not to abuse the metaphor too much, and they are willing to turn on a totally different path, and their life is completely rehabilitated. So, our job right now is to look for opportunity in the ashes. We cannot stop all the destruction right now, but we can choose what happens the moment the destruction stops. And that is where we have power for not just recovery, but transformation. And so I want us to hold on to that vision while also staying in the moment, staying in the day, remembering to take the simple actions and let go of the results, because that is how we survive the destruction that right now we are still wading through. So I have hope because of all of you. And I'll just close by saying what I always say to people when they're really feeling despair, which is just to remember that we do stand on the shoulders of giants. We do. People who have fought and bled and died and sweated and toiled in moments that were even more hopeless than this one, but who kept taking the actions. And I want to remind you that someday, not only do we stand on the shoulders of giants now, but someday someone will be looking for our shoulders to stand on. Someone will go, who inspires me from the last generation? Who carried on when everything looked bleak? Are you going to be shoulders for them to stand on? Because I want to be. And I believe that you will be as well. So we are standing on shoulders. We are building shoulders for the next generation. And when I remember that, I have the strength and the courage to go on for one more day. And I hope you do as well.